Dear students, welcome to Distributed Systems Lecture 4. I Gayatri Dhara, working as lecturer in Computer Science Department, Sir CRR College for Women, Elur. Hope you all are taking the necessary precautions of COVID-19 to stay healthy. So far we have covered the concepts of distributed systems from the beginning, like computer architectures, tightly coupled and loosely coupled. We will just revise these topics for a few minutes and we will continue today's lecture. Computer architectures are basically of two types, tightly coupled and loosely coupled. Distributed systems and its history, about all the batching process, the offline mechanism, automatic execution of jobs, multi-threading, time-sharing systems, all the concepts are covered under history, evolution of distributed systems. And we have also covered advantages and disadvantages. Characteristics of distributed systems. And the next topic we have discussed is system models. All the 5 system models: mini computer model, workstation server model, processor pool model, and the combination of previous two, that is hybrid model. We have also discussed why distributed systems gaining popularity. We have discussed certain reasons behind this. And last, what is a distributed operating system and network operating system? What are the different features differentiating them? We have discussed in the previous classes. So, I hope you all clear with these concepts. If you have any doubts, please write to me at gayatri2021@gmail.com. I will give you the clarity of the concept regarding your doubt. So, in this lecture, you will be able to know what are the different issues in designing a distributed operating system. So, in general, a distributed operating system designing is more difficult than designing a centralized operating system for many reasons. Okay. In a distributed system, one of the difficulty is the resources are physically separated. There is no common clock among the multiple processors. Delivery of messages may be delayed or it may lost sometimes in the transact, and messages could even be lost during the node to node delivery. So, a distributed operating system must be designed with the assumption that complete information about the system environment will never be available. The total information of the system environment is not available. We have to think like that and we need to design in such a way. So, despite these complexities and difficulties of a distributed operating system, it should be designed to provide the advantages of distributed systems to its users. when you designed a distributed operating system, it should be in such a way that it will give the users all the advantages of distributed systems. Means the users should be able to view a distributed system as a virtual centralized system which is flexible, they can work easily, where they can do it in a efficient and reliable manner. Moreover, it should be secure and easy to use. So, to meet all these challenges, the designers of distributed operating system must deal with several design issues. We will see in the step-by-step points. Transparency. We know that one of the main goals of distributed operating systems is to make the existence of multiple computers invisible. We have discussed this point in what differentiates the distributed operating system and network operating system. Means, again I am repeating this point. What it means a distributed operating system must be designed in such a way that a collection of distinct machines, a variety of machines connected by a communication subsystem appears to the users as a virtual uniprocessor. The existence of multiple computers should be invisible to its users. What it should do? It should provide a single system image. The same term we have discussed previously, the system image. The users should feel that they are using a single system. It should create such an illusion. So, achieving complete transparency is a difficult task and it requires several different aspects of transparency to be supported. All these transparencies means 8 forms of transparencies are identified by ISO, International Standards Organization. It giving a reference model for open distributed processing, and while designing all these 8 forms of transparencies should be supported. What are those 8 means? Access transparency, location transparency, replication, failure, migration transparency, concurrency transparency, performance, scaling and security. Performance and scaling. So now access transparency. So in the beginning slides we have discussed there are 8 types of transparency need to be supported when you are designing a distributed system. So first one to be supported is access transparency. What it means? It means that users should not need or be able to recognize whether a resource is a remote resource or a local resource. Means some user A is using any printer, he should not be able to know whether that printer is existing in the organization locally or from the remote location it is accessing. The user should not be able to recognize this. Access transparency. While accessing, he should not be able to know whether it is a remote resource or a local resource. So this implies that distributed operating system should allow users to access remote resources in the same way as local resources. How user will access all the local resources in the similar manner, the user should be allowed to access all the remote resources. If this one is satisfied, then access transparency is supported in that particular distributed system. And the next one is location transparency. The two main concepts of location transparency are name transparency and user mobility. So first look into name transparency. This refers to the fact that the name of the resource should not reveal any hint as it is a physical location resource or the connectivity or the topology. The resource names should be unique. Means when you are accessing from the local, the file name is some addition. When you are using from the remote location also, the file name should be the addition only. First of all, we will not be able to know the access transparency, but the resource names must be unique system wide. Means the resource names must be unique. All the names of the resources are same in location transparency under name transparency. Same name should be maintained. And second point under location transparency is user mobility. This refers to the fact that no matter which machine a user is logged on to, he or she should be able to access a resource with the same name. So when you all have location transparency of name transparency, then this user mobility is supported. In a distributed system that supports user mobility, users can freely log on to any machine in the system and access any resource without making any extra effort. He need not give you any information about the resource. So when it supports user mobility, the users can freely log on to any machine, not only his own machine, he can log on to any machine in the system, means distributed system, and access any resource without making any effort. That is nothing but the user mobility. This covers the transparency of location transparency. Replication transparency. The second type of transparency is replication transparency. For better performance and reliability, almost all distributed operating systems have replicas. They will provide a provision to create replicas means we can create additional copies of files and other resources on different nodes of the distributed system. So when we have replicated data, means when we have duplicate copies, two important issues related to replication transparency should be taken care. They are naming of replicas and replication control. It is the responsibility of the system to name the various copies of a resource and to map a user supplied name of the resource to an appropriate replica of the resource. Means if a user named any resource, it should be able to update that name and it should map the resource. So replication transparency means when there are any additional copies created in a distributed systems, we should take care of replicas naming and replication control. Then the next transparency is failure transparency. It deals with masking from users partial failures in the system, such as partial means somewhat, such as communication link failure, or if any machine failure or any storage device crash, it should mask from users. It should mask to the users. A distributed operating system having failure transparency property will still continue to function. But complete failure transparency is not achievable with the current state of the art in distributed system, because all types of failures cannot be handled, right? We cannot get the complete failure transparency. For example, if you have a failure of the communication network, failure in the communication network of a distributed system normally disrupts the work of its users and it is noticeable by the users. So, the complete failure transparency cannot be achieved in a distributed system. And the next type of transparency is migration transparency, and the aim is to ensure that the movement of the object is handled automatically by the system in a user transparent manner. Migration means moving from one place to another place. So here also the movement of the object is handled automatically by the system and there is no involvement of the user. So in this type of transparency, three important issues should be achieved in order to meet this goal. They are migration decisions such as which object is to be moved from where to where. It should be done automatically by the system. Means whenever I want to move some file from one system to another system, how I will move, via copy command or some media I will move, or in a network I will move. Like that, in a distributed system, what are the migration decisions to be taken moving an object? Migration of an object from one node to the another should not require any change in its name. So, there should not be any change in the name of the resource of that object. And the third thing is, when the migrating object is a process, the inter-process communication mechanism should ensure that a message sent to the migrating process reaches it without the need of the sender process to resend it if the receiver process moves to another node before the message is received. What it means when we are migrating a process, if it is an IPC which you have studied in the operating system where the cooperating process will be there, like that, in the inter-process communication mechanism should ensure that it should be moved and the sender for that particular without the need for the sender process. If it wants to resend it for if the receiver process move to another node before the message is received. And the next is concurrency transparency. In this, in a distributed system, multiple users who are geographically separated can use the system concurrently. In such a situation, we can share the system resources like hardware or any software among the concurrently executing processes. So, for example, concurrent update to the same file by two different processes should be prevented. Why? Because both are doing updations to the same file. So, we need to take care of concurrency transparency, and it means that each user has a feeling that he or she is the only user of the system and other users does not exist in the system. For providing concurrency transparency, the resource sharing mechanisms of the distributed operating systems must have the following four properties. Hope you all have understood this. Concurrency means doing things at the same time. As the resources are distributed, they can be accessed at the same time by different users. So we need to take care of concurrent updates, deletions of data, like that. So concurrent update to the same file by two different processes should be prevented. And to provide concurrency transparency, the resource sharing mechanism of the distributed operating system must follow these four properties. What it means an event ordering property which ensures that all access requests to various system resources are properly ordered. Okay, whatever we get the access requests from various system resources, we need to order it properly and to provide a consistent view to all users of the system. There should be an event ordering property. And the second thing is a mutual exclusion property. What it ensures? It ensures that at any time, at most, one process can access a shared resource. These are nothing but your critical section problem in operating systems. You might have learned that critical section problem. All these four properties are nothing but those properties only. The second one is a mutual exclusion property ensures that at any time, at most, one process accesses a shared resource. And it must not be used simultaneously by multiple processes if program operation is to be correct. If not, if multiple processes are using that shared resource, then there might be a chance of errors. And the third property is no starvation property. It ensures that if every process that is granted a resource and that resource is not to be used by simultaneously by multiple processes, so when it releases that resource, then only every request for that resource should be granted. If A is taking the resource, then B should wait until A releases the resource use. After use, A will release the resource and it should be granted to the B. But it should be taken care that B is not in a starving state. And no deadlock property, which ensures that a situation will never occur in which competing process prevent their mutual progress, even though no single one requires more resources than available in the system. Means when both are moving on a bridge, if there is a traffic jam, one need to go back. Like that, otherwise there will be a deadlock and nobody can go. So if all these four properties are satisfied, then we can provide concurrency transparency while designing a distributed system. And the next type is performance transparency. This property is to allow the system to be automatically reconfigured to improve performance. Means if the load is varying dynamically, sometimes the load might be low, sometimes the load might be heavy. In such a case also, there should be a situation in which one processor of the system is overloaded with jobs while another process is idle. It should not be allowed to occur. If there is a overload of jobs to one processor, there will not be possible for performance. So, the processing capability of the system should be uniformly distributed among the currently available jobs in the distributed system. All the processing capability, nothing but all the processors should have the same load to execute the currently available jobs. At some point of time, if there are four jobs and there are four processes, we need to give the load in a even manner. Means each processor will get the one job. Like that, we need to take care in order to achieve the performance transparency. And the next type is scaling transparency. The aim of this scaling transparency is to allow the system to expand in scale without disrupting the activities of the users. Means we can require the open system architecture and the use of scalable algorithms for designing the distributed operating system components. So those are the 8 transparencies we need to achieve. And the second issue we need to take care is reliability. A fault in a mechanical or algorithmic means any logical errors may defect that it may generate an error, right? So a fault in a system causes a system failure. What reliable means? The existence of multiple instances of the resources alone cannot increase the system's reliability, right? So distributed systems are expected to be more reliable than the centralized systems. So we need to take care of any faults in a system. Depending on the manner in which the systems are failed or the failed system behaves, system failures are of two types. System failures can be considered as two types. Fail stop or fail stop. In case of fail stop failure, the system stops functioning after changing to the state in which its failure can be detected. On the other hand, the next type of failure is Byzantine failure, which means the system continues to function but provides wrong results. It produces wrong results. In one method, we cannot get the functionality, and in the other method and the other failure model, we are getting the wrong results. So undetected software bugs will come under this second type of failures. Byzantine failures are more difficult to deal with than fail stop failures. So for high reliability, reliability is very important. So for high reliability, the fault handling mechanisms of a distributed operating system should be designed properly to avoid faults or to tolerate from faults and to detect and recover from faults. So some of the common methods used for dealing with these types of faults is fault avoidance and tolerance. Fault avoidance deals with designing the components of the system in such a way that the occurrence of faults is minimized. We should take care that faults in a system are minimized. And the next is fault tolerance. It is the ability of a system to continue functioning even in the partial system failure case. If the system is failure, some component is in failure state, in such a case also it should overcome that fault and it should run in a good manner. And the next is fault tolerance ability can be achieved with the help of redundancy techniques. And the next approach is distributed control. Under fault tolerance, we are dealing with redundancy techniques. See here, the second issue in designing is reliability. To achieve high reliability, we need to overcome faults. Faults are of two types, and we should take care by the methods like fault avoidance and tolerance. Fault avoidance means minimizing the faults occurrence in a system. Fault tolerance means the ability of a system to continue functioning even in the partial failure of a system. So, some of the concepts which are used to improve the fault tolerance are redundancy techniques and distributed control. So how much replication is enough in order to maintain this redundance technique, replication means duplicate copies, creating multiple copies. So for this answer, for this question, we have a k fault tolerant with k components should be there, or else if the system is to be designed to tolerate k fail stop failures, which we have discussed before, then we should have k plus 1 replicas are needed. It should tolerate k, means we should have k plus 1 replicas. Then only we can retrieve from that remaining replica. If k replicas are lost due to failures, the remaining one replica can be used for continued functioning of the system. If we want 4, if we have 5, then it is in the safe state. If 4 are lost, we will have another 1 to survive, like that. So on the other hand, if the system is designed to tolerate k Byzantine failures, we should have a minimum of 2k plus 1 replicas. So here in the second case we need 2k plus 1 replicas. In the fail stop failures we need only k plus 1 replicas. Then we can tolerate. Then the functionality will go on even in the fault case. And the second thing is distributed control. For better reliability, many algorithms are being used and they must be employed, and the mechanism to avoid single points of failure. The fault detection and recovery method of improving reliability deals with hardware and software mechanisms. So some of the common techniques for implementing this method in a distributed operating system is atomic transactions. Means an atomic transaction is a computation which consists of a collection of operations that take place indivisibly in the presence of failures and current computations. And the second thing is stateless servers. The client server model is frequently used in distributed systems to service user requests. So in this model, a server may be implemented by using any one of the following two service paradigms. So those are stateful or stateless protocol. In detail about this topic, we will discuss in the next lecture. Thank you.